Accounting for acquisition of interest in joint operation in separate and the consolidated financial statement of joint operator. First, can you see me which Ind AS we have done for joint operator? Joint operator we have done what? Joint arrangement. Joint arrangement means which Ind AS? Ind AS triple one. Ind AS triple one says joint arrangement are of two types: joint operation and joint venture. For joint venture, we'll go to which Ind AS? Ind AS 28. For joint operation, accounting treatment is given in which Ind AS? For joint operation, accounting treatment is given in Ind AS triple one only. What Ind AS triple one says? In the separate financial statement and the consolidated financial statement of joint operator, asset and the share of asset which are jointly held, liabilities and the share of liability jointly incurred, revenue and the share of revenue jointly earned, expense and the share of expense jointly incurred will be accounted in the separate financial statement and consolidated financial statement of joint operator. Do you remember this much? You remember? Means first let me come to Ind AS triple one. What Ind AS triple one says? Joint arrangement joint arrangement if it is unstructured, you remember, unstructured or structured. Unstructured means a separate legal entity is not created. Remember, a separate legal entity is not created. Correct? Means the arrangement is not a separate legal entity. Then it will be always joint operation. And if it is structured, then it can be joint operation or joint venture. Then there were three conditions. If any one condition satisfied, then it is joint operation. If no condition satisfied, then it is joint venture. Remember, that is not required for this chapter, but I hope you have understood what I want to say. Now, for joint operation, accounting treatment is given under Ind AS triple one. And for joint venture, we need to go to Ind AS 28. Ind AS 28 says that for SFS, no, Ind AS 20 does not say. For SFS and CFS, for SFS to will apply Ind AS 27. You remember? And for CFS will apply Ind AS 28. Equity method, you remember? Equity method, and this is cost price. Now, joint operation means what? Joint operation in individual means in separate financial statement and consolidated financial statement of what? Joint operator. You remember joint operator? Joint operator are the parties to the joint operation who have joint control over this arrangement. Understood? Correct. So joint operator, what will come? Asset will come, liability will come, income will come, expense will come. Means can I say if it is recorded in separate financial statement, already it is recorded in consolidated financial statement also. If it is recorded in separate financial statement, it will be automatically recorded in the, if this asset, liability, income and expense is recorded in separate financial statement, it is automatically recorded where? In CFS. Therefore, writing in SFS and CFS. Chalega? So, its asset, its liability, its income, its expense, and what? And what? And what? Its share of asset, share of liability, share of income, and share of expense, which are jointly held or jointly incurred. Understood? Have you understood this point? This to Ind AS triple one. Now we are into Ind AS 103. Now just try to understand. Suppose A and B 50%, 50% in a joint arrangement. They acquired 50% of this joint arrangement, and this constitute a business. Understood? Means this is a group of assets and liability which may meet the definition of what? Business. So when I have acquired 50%, so 50% of this net asset will be included in my separate financial statement and consolidated financial statement. Means this is nothing but acquisition of assets and liability to the extent of 50%. The doubt will come कि if it constitute a business, so whether Ind AS 103 will be applicable on the date of acquiring joint control. Means for this though, for formation of joint venture, Ind AS means formation of joint venture, Ind AS 103 is not applicable. Means we are not discussing about joint venture, we are discussing about joint operation. Means formation of joint venture is excluded from the purview of Ind AS 103. Because in case of joint venture, the parties have a right to the net asset, not to the specific asset. You remember? In case of joint operation, the parties to the joint arrangement have a right to the asset and obligation for the liability related to joint venture. So therefore, this assets and liability will be included in their separate financial statement. So if they have a specific right to the asset and a specific obligation for the liability, so whether Ind AS 103 is applicable? Ind AS 103 says yes. Understood what I am saying? Means for formation of joint venture, Ind AS 103 will not come into play. But for formation of joint operation, Ind AS 103 may come into action if it constitute what? A business. Means if this does not constitute a business, then Ind AS 103 is not applicable. Are you able to understand? Thora thora, have you understood? Thora thora, let us come what they want to say. Accounting for acquisition of interest in joint operation in separate and consolidated financial statement of joint operator. So you can see acquisition of interest. When you are acquiring interest, in what? Joint operation. Have you understood? Accounting for acquisition of interest in joint operation of joint operator. Correct. So what they are saying? When an entity acquire an interest in a joint operation not joint venture, in which activities of joint operation constitute a business. Oh, अच्छा ये बात. In which activities of joint operation constitute a business as defined in Ind AS 103. It shall apply. Who will apply? It means what? It means what? Joint operator. Company not joint operator. Right now it means what? Joint operator. Joint operator. Joint operator shall apply to the extent is share in the joint operation, to the extent of their share in joint operation, all the requirement of business combination accounting as per Ind AS 103. Means suppose 50%, so they will apply the requirement to the extent of 50% related to Ind AS 103. Means 50% asset will come, 50% liability will come, 50% PC they will pay. So 50% goodwill will be recognized. Are we able to understand? मजा आया? For the first time they have given question based on this. Last batch I have not taken any question on this. Only we have done the discussion. I said let the questions come in RTP MTP will do. I say na sometime there is no question. Sometime I create question. Mostly I create question. But on this part I was not expecting the ICAI will give one question. My expectation defeated. इसलिए always expect the unexpected. This was a question given in RTP or MTP, I forget, not yet in exam. But if they are creating such type of question, they are warning you. Be careful. We are going to change. Understood what I am saying? And beautiful question. You when you read the question, solution is very easy, but question we need to understand now. Have you understood this much? This applies to acquisition of both initial interest and additional interest in a joint operation in which the activities of joint operation constitute a business. Means this para, means whatever has been given this para will apply to the acquisition of both initial interest and additional interest. Means suppose they initially acquired 20% and with 20% they got joint control. So initially also India's 103 they again acquired 30% and they have joint control. So again for 30% apply what India has 103. Understood? Not understood. Understood? Not understood. Chal, ठीक है. What I am saying, initially they acquired 20% and they have joint control. Joint operation means the party which have joint control. Means there may be some parties which do not have joint control. We are not discussing about that. Means we have discussed now A, B, C, D. 25, 25, 25, 25. But this ABC have contractually agreed to have joint control. So who are the parties to the joint arrangement? ABC, not D. So we are discussing about ABC, not D. Understood what I am saying? So initially suppose A acquired 25%, whether India's 103 will be applicable? Yes. If the activities of joint operation constitute business, then they again acquire 20%, whether India's 103 will be applicable? Yes. India's 103 will be applicable. Means this will be for 20%, this will be for 20%. Chalega na, arey, what is wrong in that? Understood what I am saying? Yes, sir. Have you understood this first para? Coming to second para. The above requirement also apply to the formation of joint operation. Means first thing, already there was a joint operation, we acquired interest. Second thing, we are forming a joint operation. Whether on formation of joint operation India's 103 will be applicable? Yes. If some business has been transferred to joint operation. Correct now. Let us read. The above requirement also apply to the formation of joint operation if and only if an existing business as defined under India's 103 is contributed to the joint operation on its formation by one of its party that participate in the joint operation. Oh my God. Have you understood? What you have understood? English? A, B. They form a joint operation. Correct? And suppose there was a business one. Correct? And this business one was transferred here. Suppose I was doing only CA foundation business, but I was not able to manage that because I was busy in CA final. I will say come together, join together, we'll work together and we'll manage what CA foundation. I will teach accounts, you teach what math, and we'll jointly manage it. Quite possible not. Means initially it was my business, but now it has been transferred to a joint operation. And both party have 50%, 50%. Now in this, so both party have joint control. So we are not discussing about this transfer of business. Correct. Right now, this is formation of joint operation or not. So in the books of A, 50% will come or not. For this, what will be applicable? Ind AS 103 will be applicable. Understood what they are saying? The above requirement also apply to the formation of joint operation if and only if an existing business as defined under Ind AS 103 is contributed to joint operation or its formation by one of the party that participate in joint operation. However, this requirement do not apply to the formation of a joint operation if all the party that participate in joint operation only contribute asset or group of asset that do not constitute business to the joint operation. This is the understood point. Understood point now. So if the asset or group of asset transfer constitute a business, then only Ind AS 103 will be applicable. Correct? Yes, sir. A joint operator might increase its interest in joint operation in which activities of joint operation constitute a business as defined under Ind AS 103 by acquiring an additional interest in joint operation. This already we discussed. 20%, then again 20%. But one doubt will come whether previously held interest will be remeasured. I mean, right now we did not. Initially we acquired 20%, then we acquired 50%, it becomes 70% control obtained. So for calculation of goodwill or gain or bargain purchase, fair value of previously held means previously held equity interest will be remeasured at fair value. That we have done in step acquisition. Now here doubt will come. He previously 20%, now again 20% acquired. So we have understood Ind AS 103 will be applicable in both situations. But the question is that when you acquired additional interest, previously held equity interest, whether it will be remeasured? Bola no. No, 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 no. Because can you say on this date you have calculated goodwill on the basis of this date? Now you can't remeasure. These both are separate acquisition. Because this is 20% joint control, this is 20% joint control. In step acquisition, you are getting control on the date of acquisition. Are you able to understand? So in this case, it will not be remeasured. Understood? Bolna yes or no? In such case, previously held interest in joint operation are not remeasured if the joint operation retain joint control. Have you understood? Then, a party that participates in but does not have joint control of a joint operation might obtain joint control of joint operation in which activities of joint operation constitute a business as defined under Ind AS 103. Have you understood? Means there may be some party initially was not having joint control, but they are party to joint arrangement having no joint control. Means I am discussing about D. I am discussing about D. Do you remember the accounting treatment in the books of D as per Ind AS 111? You remember? We have done for D also. Let us come to Ind AS 111 first. So why you have not done with Ind AS 111? Because that time you were not doing about business combination. Correct now. But you are forgetting Ind AS 111. Good point is this. Ind AS 111 means CFS. CFS में आ मजा तो आ रहा है मजा आ रहा है अरे बोलना रे now if you see this is Ind AS 111. First we have done accounting treatment of interest in joint arrangement for the party having joint control. So we said asset will come, liability will come, revenue will come. These two you have understood. Now then we have done accounting by an entity that is a party to the joint operation but does not have joint control. So we discussed that if such party have a right to asset, an obligation for the liability, even though does not have joint control, the accounting treatment will be similar to this. Means whatever has been done for by joint operators, same accounting will be applied by them. But if they do not have a right to asset or obligation for the liability, then their interest will be recognized as per Ind AS 109. You remember this point? अरे बोलना रही. Do you remember? Not remember. अरे बोलना. Yes or no? थोड़ा थोड़ा अच्छा you forgotten, but right now when I am 1 second reading, can you recall that? Can you recall that? Means right now if A, B, C, D and A, B, C has joint control, for A, B, C to this accounting will be applied. The question is that what about D? So D we need to find out whether D for D means whether the party has a right to asset and obligation for liability. If yes, accounting will be done as per above, means same thing. They will recognize their asset and the share of asset, liability and share of liability. Correct? But if they do not have a right to asset or obligation for liability, then their interest will be accounted as per Ind AS 109. Means investment in joint operation as per Ind AS 109, as per FBTPL or FBTOC as the case may be. Understood? Now let us come to business combination. चलेगा? अरे बोलना. Yes. Now in business combination up to whatever we have done we have understood. Point number one you have understood. Point number two we have understood. Point number three. Point number four we are doing. A party that participates in but does not have joint control of a joint operation might obtain control of joint operation in which the activities of joint operation constitute a business as defined under Ind AS 103. Means initially they have 20% but no joint control. Correct? Understood? Correct. But now they acquired 20% and they got joint control. Quite possible. Then on this date apply what? Ind AS 103. Understood? On this date apply Ind AS 103. For how much percentage? 20%, not 40%. Correct? What they are saying? In which the act, one second, a party that participates in but does not have joint control of a joint operation might obtain joint control of a joint operation in which activities of joint operation constitute business as defined in such case previously held interest in joint operation are not remeasured. Means this will not be remeasured. This will not be remeasured because when you are remeasuring, that is a control case, not joint control. Understood? So it will not be remeasured. Means whatever you have done for 20% previously, that only will be done. It will not be remeasured. Only for this 20% apply Ind AS 103. Correct? Yes, sir. Last point. If a transaction of acquisition of interest in joint operation is a common control transaction, understood? Common control transaction as defined in Ind AS 103, then entity should not apply the requirement mentioned above. In such case, entity shall apply the accounting specified in Appendix C to Ind AS 103. Means if it there is a business but it meet common control transaction definition, means they are under common control before and after this transaction, then apply appendix C. Don't apply Ind AS 103. Apply appendix C to Ind AS 103. Means appendix C we know asset will come, liability will come at carrying amount. Simple. Understood? But I think this too they have not given any question. They have given question for this Ind AS 103.